Welcome to our Line Opinion panelists this week. We have Julia Goldberg. She's senior correspondent for the Santa Fe Reporter. Former state representative and House Minority Whip Daniel Foley is with us. And it's great to have Giovanna Rossi, president of Collective Action Strategies, back with us as well. Thank you all for being here. Now, all three congressional districts have changed after the state's new redistricting process in quotes there, of course, and that means new challenges for those incumbents and their opponents. Let's start in District 1, where incumbent Democrat Melanie Stansbury is taking on Republican challenger Michelle Garcia Holmes. Again, now that her district has stretched to the south and east, Daniel, Ms. Stansbury will have to reach more conservative voters, which was the goal here. But like most Democrats, she's leaning heavily on her abortion rights platform. Is this the issue she should be focusing on, given how that district has morphed a little bit from redistricting?
Yeah, definitely not the issue she should be focusing on in southeastern and eastern New Mexico. I mean, that's, if you look at any map of the Bible Belt that goes up through Kansas and Oklahoma, it starts here and it starts right there in southeastern New Mexico. So the real question is going to be is, will they turn out in the numbers they need to turn out for a Republican to win? You know, the seats, which I think is kudos to the legislature. I'm surprised that it got signed, but all those seats are a lot more competitive now. We used to have, if you think about it first, we really had one heavy Democrat seat, one heavy Republican seat, and for a while there, as your former boss could attest to, we had sort of a toss-up seat, right? And over the course of time, two of them moved heavy Democrat, one of them stayed heavy Republican, and now all three of them are fairly in play. I mean, all three of them, there's an opportunity that they're going to be rolling out there. I think it's a bad move. I do think it's going to be interesting to see how the Albuquerque Journal's endorsement plays out. It's rare that the Albuquerque Journal endorses a challenger over an incumbent without there being some extenuating circumstances, right? Criminal activity, something bad, or just a out-and-out policy stance against folks at the Journal editorial board. But to see the Journal editorial board endorse a Republican over an incumbent Democrat was sort of an interesting deal. That should play well in meeting with the local media, the smaller newspapers and local media in those southeastern New Mexico towns. I do think that a lot of my friends in southeastern New Mexico that are in that district still don't know who either candidate is, and that's not a good showing for a challenger.
That's an interesting point you just made, the last point. I'm curious how this campaigning in these new districts shape up after all the votes come in. Giovanna, the Republican challenger in CD1, Michelle Garcia Holmes, I mentioned, has a strong background in law enforcement, consistently targeting crime as a top issue while appealing to more rural and conservative areas of the district. Is that going to be enough to gain enough votes in Albuquerque with that approach? Kind of a flip of the question I asked Dan about rural stuff. How does she balance that here in Albuquerque?
I mean, crime is a top issue in the campaigns, and certainly it's right out of the playbook for the Republicans right now, all across all of the races. So that will, help her. I think still, though, going back to what Dan said, I think the redistricting is going to be interesting and a little bit of a wild card as we figure out how it's really going to play out. So I think, she can try to do that and talk about that, but I don't know that the message is really getting out. So they have, she has this platform and she's saying all this stuff, but who's actually listening and who is hearing the message? And for Congresswoman Stansbury, she has a little bit of an edge with being in Congress already, but she hasn't been there that long. And, again, with the Albuquerque Journal endorsement of her challenger, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here.
Good point there. Also yet to come is that classic Albuquerque Journal poll that runs just before. We'll see what happens there. Julia, interesting. Moving on to CD2, incumbent Republican Yvette Herrell has taken on Democratic challenger Gabe Vasquez. If you've been watching TV recently, you know this race, you know the advertising battle. This race has gotten particularly ugly. And again, the incumbent will likely have a tougher time as District 2 now includes parts of Albuquerque, including the South Valley. So I'm wondering, in your opinion, will Ms. Herrell's rural base be enough to overcome that change in the things that the voters that are up here and closer to the Emerald City of Albuquerque?
I don't know. I know that 538 has District 2 in its list of 12 seats that are possible to flip Democrat. I think they've got it with 43
Hmm.
to 100 odds. So I do think it's in play, as Dan put it. And I also think, the incumbent is one of the more extreme candidates in this election in terms of Republican candidates, and certainly more extreme than in the third congressional district in terms of her stances about the 2020 election and such. So I think he's right to be attacking her along those lines in terms of making that public. So I think it's not outside the realm, and certainly the redistricting makes it more possible than it would have been.
Dan, interestingly, that district's voting age population went from 51% to 56% Hispanic. I'm wondering if that might be somewhat influential here in the voting here. But same question: can Ms. Harrell pull off something here in this new area of her district up here in Albuquerque? She's been campaigning, but it seems like she's been relying on television much more than being up here and knocking on a whole lot of doors. What's your sense of that?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think she's, it's a long ways from Cruces to here,
That's right.
and there's a complete stark difference between the constituencies, right? So you can really run afoul coming up here and saying one thing and then going back to Roswell or wherever and saying the complete difference. And so I think it's a smart move to kind of pick your place and say, listen, I'm going to stick to a message. I think clearly her message is border security and crime. I think that, the defund the police stuff that she's tried to attach to her opponent, some of which has been, there's been questions about whether it's true or not. Some of it's been pointed out that he's made some comments. I think if she sticks with those things, I think that's going to play well in the South Valley of Albuquerque, because crime it's a major issue in New Mexico. It's a unbelievably major issue in Albuquerque. And crime is, from what I'm seeing and people that I talk to, my small circle, crime is really starting to cross partisan lines, right? I mean, even some pretty liberal Democrat friends of mine are like, this is enough. I mean, we've got to figure something out. And so I think as long as she continues to paint him as a defund the police, far left progressive Democrat in that district, I think it plays very well to her. I also think it doesn't hurt her when people say that she's an extremist, she's very far right. I think in that district, that plays better to the base, right? In that district, the more right you are. I mean, we're talking about a place where, a guy who literally started Cowboys for Trump is still getting standing ovations at county commission meetings, and people are still heavily in support of him. And whether you agree with it or disagree with it, I think that makes up a solid amount of the district. And at the end of the day, I think that's the base in that district, and I think that's what's going to drive people. It's the same with CD3 that we're going to talk about. Yep. The left is going to drive that district. The right's going to drive, I think, CD2.
Thanks for the handover there for Giovanna there. And CD3 incumbent Democrat Teresa Leger Fernandez has taken on Republican challenger Alexis Martinez Johnson for the second time, of course. Now, Ms. Leger Fernandez is relying on her record in Congress, where she helped pass that $2.5 billion in wildfire relief. And Martinez Johnson is focusing on broader issues like inflation, the economy, and that position was highlighted in a major recent ad where Ms. Martinez Johnson says the Democratic Party abandoned my abuelos. Could that type of messaging flip this district, Giovanna? Is it enough?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at her campaign ads, and she is definitely honing in on her heritage and her grandparents. I don't know that it's going to be enough. I think she is she's sort of throwing a lot out and seeing what's sticking, and I'm not sure much is sticking. And so I see the incumbent doing well there in that district.
A reminder, Ms. Leger Fernandez ran away with it 58.7% to 41.3% last time around. Julia, just real quick here, got about a minute and a half. All three of these newly drawn districts appear to be more competitive. We don't know until the votes come in. Now, which challenger is the best shot of unseating an incumbent here, given this new sort of landscape we're dealing with?
Oh, I'm inclined to think Abe Vasquez. I'm inclined to think that's the one where you're most likely to see an upset, but that might be wishful thinking. I tend to I tend to watch my election predictions are all based on what I want to have happen, and they're not often correct. So.
I hear you. You wouldn't be alone in that. Dan, your thought on that real quick. Are we as competitive as we look?
I think it's competitive. I think they're all going to be more competitive, which is going to, I think, entice better candidates to run in the future. So I think you're going to see these races be. I would say the one that has the best chance of changing would be CD1, the Albuquerque Journal endorsement, and the fact that it's urban and there's a constant message that I think can resonate. I think CD2 is definitely in place. CD3 is. There's no chance. I mean, it's going to stay Democrat. I think CD2 will probably stay Republican, but it'll be a very, very close race.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see Gabe running again in 2 years.
Good point there. Thanks to our line opinion panel on that. Starting next week, New Mexico in Focus will bring you exclusive interviews with key contenders for governor, Navajo Nation president, and our 3 congressional districts we just discussed. New Mexico in Focus's candidate conversations begin next week on NMPBS.